Hello everyone. Today we are going to see about that inter first year botany first chapter. The lesson name is the living world. When we are talking about living world, anytime have you wondered about that how the living world is? It's a extraordinary habitats which we find in living organisms like cold mountains, deciduous forest, ocean, freshwater lakes, deserts, or hot springs leave us speechless when we are seeing all those things. The ecological conflict and the cooperation among the members of population and among the populations of a community or even the molecular traffic inside a cell makes us deeply reflect. If it is all these things happen, there will be the question when we are talking about the living world, that is what is living. So how can we define that what is living? It is a distinctive characteristics it will have. What are those distinctive characteristics? Growth. If it is a living thing, it should be give growth, and it has to be reproduced, and it will have the ability to sense environment and mount a suitable response also, and it has to do metabolism, ability to self replicate and self organized, and interaction and emergence are these are all the some unique characteristics of living organisms. Then only we can say that those organism or living organism is called living. Yes, so when we are talking about living organisms, the first characteristics which is coming is growth. So how we can define the growth? In the process, increasing in mass and increasing number of individuals are called the twin characteristics, which we call it growth. When we are talking about multicellular organisms, when it grows by cell divisions. When we are talking about the plant, they are also grow by cell divisions. That how it will be in the plants, like continuous throughout their lifespan, the cell divisions will be happen. In case of animals, this growth is seen only up to the certain age only. So cell division occurs in certain tissues to replace. How it will be replaced? The last cells which is destroyed. When we are talking about unicellular organisms, that also grow in size, they divided by cell division. One can easily observe this in vitro culture by simple counting the number of cells under the microscope. What is that in vitro culture? We are talking about IVE, the in vitro. Like that, we can be observe the cell division which is happening in either in a unicellular living cells or by the multicellular living cells. We can take and observe. When we are talking about the growth in living organism, we should have to know about the non-living things also. Even non-living things also grow. You may ask, how is it possible, ma'am? But it is possible. How? The mountain, boulders, and sand mounds, these all grows. How it grows? It is a kind of growth only exhibit in the non-living objects, like accumulation of materials on the surfaces, so that it will also show the growth like living organisms. But it cannot be taken as a definite property for living, and a dead organism does not grow, we know very well. Next to the topic, which the characteristics which we are going to see is reproduction. See, if it is a living organism, it should have to be reproduced. Either it may be a multicellular or it may be a unicellular. When we are talking about the multicellular organism, they'll be go with the either with the sexual reproduction or with the asexual reproduction. When we are talking about that fungi, that will be multiplied through the millions of asexual spores. And in lower organisms like yeast, hydrilla, they'll be grow with asexual sexual reproduction like budding, and like algae filamentous, the fragmentations, and mosses, these are all will be multiplied through the process of fragmentations. Unicellular organisms like bacteria, algae, amoeba, they'll be reproducing in synonyms with growth, and there will be increase in number of the cells. Single celled organism we call it, and we are not very clear about the usage of these two terms, growth and reproduction. Further, there are many organisms which are not reproduced: moles, sterile worker bees, infertile human couples. So they are not living things. What, they are also in living thing only, but they cannot be reproduced. So reproduction will not coming under the characteristics the which should have to be bear by the living organism. Consider these fellows are like moles and infertile human couples, sterile worker bees are non-living thing. No, they are also living things only, but they are not having the capability of reproduction. Another characteristics when we see about lifespan, life is metabolism. So all living things are, we know, they are made up of chemicals. So the small and big chemicals are belongs to various classes, size, function, etc. are con- constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecules. These conversions are chemical reactions, or which we call it metabolic reactions. There are thousands and metabolic reactions will be happen inside the all living organisms. Some sort total of the chemical reactions occurs in the body and living organism, which we call it metabolism. All plants, animals, fungi, microbes, which will be undergone to the metabolism process. Yes, is it? So non-living object exhibits also exhibits metabolism, and isolated metabolic reactions outside of the body of the organism will be performed. Like test tube is not a living thing, but surely a living reactions are happening inside the test tube. So metabolism is a definite feature of the living organism with the exceptions. In cellular organisms of the body required for metabolism is the definite future of life forms. So we can take like reproduction. We will not consider in the life living characteristics. No. Uh, Unlike the reproduction, the metabolism is a definite characteristics of the living organism. Okay, the most another living thing characteristics is ability to sense their surroundings or the environment. Yes, so we know that we have studied in last year class also, there will be a environmental stimulus. For that response also will be happen in the living things, either it may be a plant or it may be an animal, like physical, chemical or biological way the response will be for the environmental stimulus, and which we call it irritability. Yes, and the sense organs plants do respond external factors like light, water, temperature, other organisms and pollutants. Uh, Photo period affects the reproduction in seasonal breeders, both plants and animals. All living organisms aware of their surroundings, and this is called consciousness. So whoever have this consciousness also will be considered as a one of the characteristics of living organism, isn't it? Consciousness will be becoming a definite property of living organisms. Human being is the only one who aware of himself. That is, he will have the self consciousness. Yes. So when it comes to human being, more difficult to define that which are pointers to the living state. And patients lying in a coma in hospital virtually supported by the machines which replace heart and lungs. The patient is otherwise brain dead. The patient has no self consciousness, but still he is alive. Yes, and apart from that, another phenomena for the living thing is which is going to the interactions. That means what? The properties of tissues are not present in the constituent cell, but arise the results of interaction among the constituent cells. Yes, similarly, the properties of cellular organelles are not present in the molecular constituents of the organelles, but arise as a result of interactions among the molecular components comprising the organelles. In this way, the molecular interactions will be happening in the macromolecules such as starch. These interactions results in emerging the properties of higher level of the organization. So that it is proved by in the hierarchy of organizational complexity levels. Okay, so therefore the living organisms are self-replicating, evolving and self-regulating interactive systems capable of responding to external stimuli. All living organisms are having present, past and future are linked to one another by the sharing of common genetic material, but to vary in the degrees. It will be different for different